we were outside of Nike Town when the protest moved through that area. And the photographer and myself got caught up in the middle of that and were shoved and hit with some sticks. And then to add injury to insult, once we got ourselves squared away with the demonstrators and were able to protect ourselves, then we were sprayed with some pepper spray. All of that is on tape that you'll see if you cue that back up to the beginning. We're okay. One of our photographers suffered some scrapes and bruises, and we put some antiseptic swabs on. He's going to be okay. But at one point, as we've seen in WTO and some of the other demonstrations that I've covered in recent times, the strategy of the demonstrators, especially if you want to put the anarchist brand on them, I don't know if that's accurate, but it has become so sophisticated now. They come out of nowhere, they break windows and throw fireworks, spray paint windows, do their vandalism, and dissolve. They're gone immediately. And they go from 1 minute dressed in all black with body armor to the next minute some dudes in T-shirts and shorts standing there enjoying the music. So it was an amazing transition that these people are able to pull off, and an amazingly quick, violent strike, and then escape. The crowd of, you got to just call them professional decorators, I guess, as they went through and did their business. And then along behind them, the stragglers, those are the people who are getting the beatings and the arrests. And this elite team of demonstrators seems to be able to move through and get through unscathed. I haven't seen any of those people under arrest. And you just never saw them again. They just disappeared.
And this is video, that new video that came in just about 5-10 minutes ago. This is when it began. The confrontation began about 5-10 minutes ago when the Seattle police kind of put a line in the sand on Pike between 1st and 2nd, stopped the marchers, and then this confrontation ensued.
The mayor pointed out that some of the protesters are trying to taunt the police under intense scrutiny because they're under federal regulations now in terms of their behavior with regard to people that they're following, people, how they carry out their arrests and how they deal with the public. So they're being closely scrutinized by the federal government and by the citizens of Seattle, all of whom have cameras and are closely watching what the police are doing. You're seeing them arrest and take into custody several people who are involved. This is a live picture then at Pike between 1st and 2nd. Several arrests have been made, 2 earlier today. Here's another one as police take people into custody who they deem are causing the violence in downtown Seattle.
The tone of the police response has changed. Here you can see Seattle police bicycle officers, but in the background you can see far more heavily fortified SWAT members. And if you can see the man with the rifle looking gun there, that's actually shoots gas canisters. So they brought it up to the next level here, and they've gone into full riot gear, not just what they call hats and bats, but fully hardened gear as well, as these 2 marches are expected to merge and make their way down to the federal building area.
From snow to ice, a winter storm turns into a state of emergency.
The trees are cracking and almost sounds like a gunshot. It's an eerie feeling to be out here.
Trees and power lines encased in ice crack under the weight. Roofs cave in and thousands struggle without power. Now emergency crews worry it's only going to get worse from here.
This is a mess. This is a carport here in the Olympic Heights apartment on the west side of Olympia, not far from the Westfield Capitol Mall. Around 5 o'clock this morning, it came crashing down. It's an aluminum structure that just couldn't hold the 14 or so inches of snow from yesterday, and then the wet rain and the freezing rain just came down on top of 5 cars. Unfortunately, the car that was the most damaged belongs to Kara Batts. And Kara, what was this like to come out to this morning?
It was nerve-wracking. I kind of didn't expect that. My husband said it came down, and I thought he was kidding until I came outside, and it's really shocking to see that something that you would assume would keep you safe in this kind of stuff just didn't, and it came down on top of it.
Teresa Ewan is in Storm King 1, live in Seattle. Teresa, good morning.
We are turning onto one of the main arterials to show you that some of the streets here in Magnolia, the more, again, busier intersections have been sanded over. So drivers taking it slow but making it okay. And again, you can see chains on the buses as well. Again, we're keeping an eye on the side streets. That's the difficult part. Now, we have our four-wheel drive on, and, just when you turn, you can kind of almost see that we're sliding a bit because it is very tough to get traction on all this fresh powder that's fallen overnight.
At this stage of the game, we don't have anything under control.
A two-man team from Pierce County is just about all that stands between a raging fire and a man who's lived here.
If it doesn't hold, then they said, be thinking about getting out of here.
For 50 years.
I think I'm already beyond that. I'm afraid I might lose the house.
Rancher J.P. Rowan is surrounded by flames.
We're working on it.
And friends.
Yeah.
He's seen fire here before, but not like this. And there's bad news on the fire line.
That's going to be a problem.
Firefighter Jim Wassel is in trouble.
I'm out of water. So that's my first priority right now is I got to find a tender so I can get some water.
He has to leave the Rowan place unprotected.
Hello.
Reality is setting in.
We're just getting ready to get the hell out of here.
Rowan is running out of time.
See how the smoke's going east? That's not good.
For a moment, a glimmer of hope.
Give me some more!
Firefighter Wassel is back, and he's brought help.
Pull it, Ryan, pull it!
But the crews come up just a little short.
Ah, damn it. Got no line! Come on, get out!
The firefighters are forced to retreat.
This poor day.
Rowan is forced to turn his back on 50 years. He wasn't there to see the smoke and flame take his barn. He won't know until tomorrow if it took his home. Near Ellensburg, Gary Chittum, King 5 News.
We begin tonight with our ongoing series, Fraud on the Job, which exposed long-standing problems within the state's minority contracting program. We found companies abusing benefits of the program, and the state agency responsible for monitoring that looking the other way.
We have not been able to sustain the progress. We've not been able to do the compliance that we need to do.
That's Governor Gregoire chewing out the director of OMWBE at a meeting in Olympia. She says the agency is failing small minority and women-owned construction businesses who want a shot at working on big transportation projects.
Time is up. Change has to be made.
The biggest problem, according to the governor, OMWBE isn't processing applications fast enough to meet federal requirements. There's a backlog of small businesses just waiting to bid on the tax-funded work.
But this can't go on any longer.
I agree with you, Governor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The King 5 investigators have found for years OMWBE's felt the pressure to certify more firms and to do it quicker. And that's come with a price. We found sloppy work and worse. The agency breaking federal rules to rush through the pile of applications.
So the focus was getting the files out the door as quickly as possible.
Cami Nas is a former OMWBE investigator who quit the agency to work in the private sector. It was her job to look into companies who applied for certification and, every 3 years, to recertify them if they still qualified.
Well, you don't want firms to be in the program who are not eligible. That kind of defeats the purpose for everybody who is.
But in 2008, her manager, Jean Wheat, seen here closing the agency doors on a King 5 camera, told Nas they needed to get the backlog done. And to help, Cami Nas was to sign off on letters she didn't write. She was to recertify companies she hadn't investigated at all.
That company could have been too big.
Yes.
Could have been too rich.
Yeah.
Could have been cheating the system. And you didn't know.
For all I knew, yes.
And that's why you felt uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nas documented her concerns. I'm being told to sign off on files I didn't review, and I feel this is a way to erase evidence that someone else looked at the case.
Did you feel like you were under pressure to sign those letters?
Yes. Yes, I mean, I said no, and they still said, well, you need to do it. There's nobody else. You have to do it. There's a backlog of files. These have to go out.
So under duress, she signed and signed and signed some more. Her name at the bottom of 30 recertification letters to 30 different companies she didn't know a thing about.
I knew it wasn't the right thing to do, but I didn't want to lose my job.
We wanted to ask the agency director, Kathy Canaro, about that and more. She repeatedly denied our requests for an on-camera interview.
Susanna Frame from King TV.
So we caught up with her outside the office in Olympia.
We know you're under a lot of pressure to certify firms as fast as possible. We've heard the governor tell you that. Is that why some employees have been asked to lie and sign off on work that they didn't do?
Well, first of all, the governor has not told me that.
Canaro didn't answer that, but did say TV wasn't the place to discuss the complicated program.
We cannot follow due process by playing it out in the media.
King 5 has also found the agency's given minority contractors already in the program the okay to bid on new kinds of work without a proper review, and that's breaking federal regulations. For example, earlier this year, a woman-owned business, Penny Lee Trucking, already certified to do work such as excavation, wanted to bid on dump trucking contracts. A full investigation was needed to see if the company had the experience and ability to do the work. That didn't happen. Internal emails obtained by King 5 show, per Kathy Canaro's request, the investigator assigned to the case simply gave Penny Lee the official okay, no questions asked. In another email, Canaro denied she made that request.
The analysts have been told, just sign it. We need to get it out the door, just sign it. That doesn't seem appropriate or even possibly legal.
Well, I'm not familiar with the information that you have, so I can't comment.
You know anything about Penny Lee?
Again, I'm not familiar with any of the documentation that you have, so I can't comment on that.
I'm not putting up with that at all. That's totally unacceptable.
Senator Mary Margaret Haugen is the top transportation lawmaker in Olympia. Her concern is keeping the billions of federal transportation dollars flowing into the state. And running the minority program in good faith is a requirement for the money. Haugen hopes OMWBE's missteps aren't putting that funding in jeopardy.
And what do you think when you hear that managers are saying, oh, look the other way, we just need your signature, we got to get this off the desk?
Managers should be gone. That's not acceptable.
Kathy Canaro was replaced as director of OMWBE soon after that interview. Another manager in the story, Gene Wheat, has been let go as well. Our investigation also led to the governor calling for an inquiry and the FBI investigating companies that were featured in the series.
We are in the gun room, and this is where we keep all the firearms.
As manager of the evidence room at the Bellevue Police Department,
This is our general storage.
Kim Current boxes and keeps track of hundreds of guns taken from criminals.
There could be a very good possibility that one of them has been used in some other crime.
One proven way to uncover the untold story of each firearm is through the ballistics matching system known as IBIS.
Essentially, it's like the fingerprint for a firearm. It's a great system.
A great system that Bellevue police hardly ever use.
They're going to fire.
To test a gun in IBIS, the crime lab needs this, a shell casing.
So we collect our casings.
If they don't have a casing from a crime scene, as with most guns police seize, they have to get one by firing the weapons themselves. Public records requested by the King 5 investigators show shell casings from only 2% of crime guns in Bellevue police custody have been entered into IBIS.
It boils down to budget.
The evidence room manager says there's a staffing and equipment cost for the test fires needed for IBIS, money that's not in the budget.
We have a total inventory of over 500 firearms, and so even an hour per firearm, and that's quite a bit of hours that we don't have.
Bellevue is the state's 5th largest city with a more than $35 million police budget. Bellevue seizes about 100 crime guns each year. Most of the firearms in police evidence rooms are legally defined as crime guns. Even though many have never been fired during a crime, they're taken from robbers, drug dealers, and felons. With IBIS, the State Patrol crime labs can compare shell casings from those guns to a vast database of shell casings. The casings on file come from crime scenes and test fires entered by police departments nationwide. A shell casing match can link a gun to previously unconnected crimes.
Which is where we enter cartridge cases into a database.
The crime lab manager constantly preaches to police departments that IBIS gets results if they use it.
We've got over 500 hits. In other words, by hits I mean connections between crimes that you'd never known existed. since this system began.
Those hits often turn up links to crimes in other jurisdictions. Seattle is looking for clues in several unsolved shootings that occurred earlier this year. Nicole Westbrook was one of the victims, shot at random from a passing car.
I just want justice for my sister. I want somebody to say something. I want somebody to speak up.
Seattle police do thorough ballistics tests on every shell casing and crime gun they receive. But what if the firearm that killed Nicole, or a shell casing from it, was found in another city? It could be sitting right now in the evidence room of another jurisdiction, and police there would never know it. That's because outside of Seattle, few police are doing what the state crime lab recommends, entering their crime guns into IBIS.
Well, I would say that they're missing an opportunity. They are missing the opportunity to link cases, to get information, to make arrests.
Through public records, the King 5 investigators found that many of the state's largest cities leave their crime guns unchecked. In Federal Way, 15% of crime guns seized in the last 3 years are in IBIS. In Everett, only 7% of the 284 crime guns in police custody are entered into the system. The lowest number is 2% for both Bellevue and the state's second largest city, Spokane. Our analysis found nearly 3,000 crime guns among the 10 largest cities in Washington alone that are not in the IBIS network. But some police agencies have found a way to get it done. Ken has been using IBIS since the system was installed 13 years ago. Every single crime gun goes into the computer.
We're going to fire the weapon twice and collect those casings.
It's the job of Kent's firing range officer to test fire the 80 or so crime guns seized each year. Kent does this even though it's a smaller city with a police budget $10 million less than Bellevue.
We consider it a very important and worthwhile investment. We want to be sure that we're not holding that piece of evidence that might resolve a significant crime in another jurisdiction and maybe bring some comfort or some closure to the people who were victimized by that gun.
After our story aired, the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms stepped in. It said it may send firearms experts from Washington, D.C. to our state to help police departments run ballistics tests on all their crime guns. Some police departments aren't waiting, however. Bellevue and Spokane, two of the biggest in the state, are already putting together plans to test fire the guns in their lockups to see if they provide clues in unsolved crime.
And breaking tonight, the Seattle City Council has an agreement in principle to build the new SoDo Sports Arena.
Council members reached the deal with investor Chris Hansen late tonight. King 5's Chris Daniels is here now with the big deal, the key concession, and all that's transpired.
Yeah, Lori, this will officially be announced tomorrow. Multiple sources tell me Chris Hansen and the Seattle City Council have a deal to build a $490 million NBA/NHL sports arena. There is majority council approval for the new plan, and it only came after Hansen agreed to fund $40 million in transportation improvements and more money for Seattle Center. Multiple sources tell me council members Bruce Harrell and Sally Bagshaw have indicated their support for the plan. I'm told chief negotiators Tim Burgess and Mike O'Brien have also signed on. And it wasn't until late today when important voice, Council President Sally Clark, signed off on the deal to give the council a majority, Arena 5. So let's get some reaction from the mayor of the great city of Seattle, Mike McGinn, who joins us on the phone right now. And first of all, Mayor, you presented this formal proposal from Chris Hansen months ago. What do you think now that the city council has said we have a deal?
This is great news, and it puts Chris Hansen in a position to get an NBA team.
Seattle's former NBA franchise, the Oklahoma City Thunder, is in Sacramento tonight. Meantime, Sacramento's city leaders tell King 5 they're following developments here and say they don't want to end up like Seattle. King 5's Chris Daniels joins us live from Sacramento with new reaction. Chris?
Lori, they had a sellout crowd here tonight.
The NBA commissioner will have a lot to say about whether basketball returns to Seattle. Chris Daniels got some time with David Stern this afternoon in Orlando. Chris, what did he tell you? This is a key element of the Seattle Arena project.
Can investor Chris Hansen acquire one or two franchises for his proposed SoDo Arena? Today in New York, some developments cast doubt. King 5's Chris Daniels is live now from New York with the big news. Chris.
12 years ago, we started something called the King 5 Ad Watch, examining the claims in political commercials. Up front this week, we begin by examining a new ad targeting McKenna.
Then you start asking around, and he isn't at all who he says he is.
It's one of the first attack ads of the season. It comes from a group of Democrats and unions, and it makes two specific claims about Republican candidate for governor Rob McKenna.
McKenna personally lobbied to increase his own salary up to $148,000, all while using his office to try blocking a 12-cent increase in the minimum wage.
Let's start with this claim about the minimum wage. Did McKenna really try to block a 12-cent increase? Here's what really happened. Years ago, Washington state voters passed an initiative that says every year on September 30th, the state will increase the minimum wage by the rate of inflation. The state uses what's called the CPIW, a National Consumer Price Index for urban and clerical workers. For many years, that price index climbed steadily, and every year our state minimum wage went up accordingly. But the law didn't anticipate what happened between 2008 and 2009 when the economy was in a tailspin. The price index actually went down. The initiative only spells out how to increase the minimum wage, not decrease it. So during that period, the state left the minimum wage the same. Now, fast forward to 2010, the price index started to recover. That's when McKenna weighed in with his opinion as Attorney General that the minimum wage should stay the same. He argued the wage never went down and the price index was only recovering what it had lost. McKenna says the intent of the law is to make sure workers' purchasing power keeps up with inflation. And if prices aren't really higher, the wage shouldn't go up automatically. By the way, the state ignored McKenna's opinion and raised the wage 12 cents. Let's move on to the other claim in the ad.
McKenna personally lobbied to increase his own salary up to $148,000.
This claim also needs more context. In our state, there's a group called the WCCSEO, the Washington Citizens Commission, which sets the salaries for elected officials. McKenna talked to the commissioners by phone and supported the idea of a higher salary. But here's the context. The year was 2007 when the state had a budget surplus. All state employees got at least 3% raises. Many got 5% or more. The commission gave catch-up raises to all state elected officials, and the Attorney General was one of them. 2 years later, after the housing market and economy had crashed, McKenna spoke to the commission again, this time saying elected officials shouldn't get any raise because state employees weren't getting one either. So the commercial lacks context, and here's where it goes wrong. It tries to connect these two issues, McKenna's own salary with the minimum wage. Listen one more time.
McKenna personally lobbied to increase his own salary up to $148,000, all while using his office to try blocking a 12-cent increase in the minimum wage.
The phrase all while implies McKenna engaged in two activities at the same time. In reality, his support for raising his salary was in 2007. His opinion on the minimum wage came in 2010 after the economy tanked. The commercial tries to link the two, but these were two very different economic times, which leads us to say the claim in this ad is misleading.
Bob McKenna, Republican. Jay Inslee, Democrat. Tonight, these two candidates meet in the governor's debate. Live from the King 5 studios in Seattle.
Let me ask you a quick question. You talked about changing upper management. Would you fire David Mosley, who runs the ferry system?
Yes, but I don't think I'll need to because I think he'll resign. I think all the agency heads routinely resign. So.
And what specific steps would you take, Mr. Inslee, when you say you're going to be a disruption in the force? What do you mean?
Here's what I mean. If you look at what Boeing has done, they've used a science called lean management. It started at Toyota. And what
specifically would you do?
I would make sure that every single state employee has training in lean management, and I never hire a single leader, mid-manager or otherwise, who's not fully embracing this concept of constant quality improvement.
We'll give an example of lean management.
That is very, very important in this, and I'm going to get it done.
Let's leave the ferries afloat for now. Election Day 2012 will go down in history for the gay rights movement. Same-sex marriage is leading in our state and scored victories in Maine, Maryland, and Minnesota.
Plus, an openly gay candidate was elected to the U.S. Senate. King 5's Joe Fryer and photojournalist Jeff Christian walk us through the historic day.
Still ahead on Seattle's Morning News, it is Election Day 2012.
An election day always begins with questions.
Washington voters give an okay to gay marriage.
Usually ends with answers.
Democrat Senator Ed Murray.
Sometimes
We're hoping.
holds the potential
Washington's hopefully going to make history.
for new beginnings.
Excited. I'm ready to make history.
It's that possibility that motivated supporters of same-sex marriage to rise early and greet the morning commute.
Most people look really happy, even for a bunch of folks stuck in traffic.
They share the 45th Street overpass with opponents, competing for honks and thumbs.
He gives us the thumbs down to the reject people and then gives us the big thumbs up. We always appreciate that.
At Kaladi Brothers Coffee Shop on Capitol Hill, there's a blend of hope and anxiety.
It's really scary and exciting.
Heading into the day, they realize no state has ever voted for gay marriage, while 32 have rejected it.
Oh my goodness, I'm freaking out.
This is the last day, you guys. We have 12 hours remaining.
Knowing it'll be close,
I hope you are swollen with pride.
gay rights volunteers gather in the coffee shop's back room, then hit the streets one last time.
So we're on 15. We just need to see if the numbers are getting higher.
To make sure every potential supporter votes yes on R74.
And I'm with you.
Awesome. Thank you for your support. 02 and 1806.
For Rod Maplestone, it's different than canvassing for a candidate.
So it's his neighbor.
It feels more like he's campaigning for himself.
You know, most people who get married don't have to ask the whole state if they can do that. They just get the permission of, their parents and family and friends.
Thanks for doing this.
For openly gay State Senator Ed Murray, it's a campaign that started 17 years ago when, as a rookie legislator, he watched Washington pass the Defense of Marriage Act.
It was a pretty depressing moment in my career and actually in my life.
But gradually, he saw opinions change.
I've watched people who voted for the Defense of Marriage Act this year change their minds and vote for marriage equality.
Still, it's clear a good part of the population remains opposed to same-sex marriage.
We've had all kinds of reactions and a lot of positive, can hear the horns honking. So
Jerry Gibbs and his wife Ruth, now married nearly 51 years, campaigned vigorously against R74.
Marriage has a definition, and the definition is a man and a woman. There's no need to redefine that.
On that short sale, no.
That argument frustrates Kim Colapreti and Chavi Holmes, partners in business and in life.
From my standpoint, love is the most important thing, and that's what marriage is about.
Together for 15 years. Only now is marriage entering the conversation.
Chavi and I are definitely committed to being married if this passes. Whether we're going to have the $20,000 wedding to go with it is another question.
Wedding planners would find no shortage of customers at the election results party.
I love you.
Take Brian Oberton and his boyfriend Louis Love, who was kicked out of his home at age 16 because he's gay. Like so many here, they're eager to marry.
And we keep every single flower. From the first flower I gave him, the first flower he ever gave me, we keep it in a basket for one day for that flower girl to walk down the alley to be able to give to us.
In this crowded room, you can almost feel the heavy weight of history building.
It is a once-in-a-lifetime moment.
Until shortly after the polls close, and the weight begins to lift. With a slight lead, they can't declare victory quite yet.
You have made a difference.
But they can celebrate like they've won.
We're getting married, babe. Can you believe it? We did it.
With victories in Maine, Maryland, and Minnesota, the losing streak is now a winning one. As they take their party to the streets of Capitol Hill.
Victory!
And thank the voters who said yes to their proposal.
It's history, man.
In Seattle, Joe Frost.
It's history. What's not to like?
King 5 News.
October is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so we want to share with you an update on a story John Sharifi first told you about a few months ago.
Kim and Stephanie Lavarello are twin sisters who have breast cancer, who pushed to unseal the adoption records after they found they had a genetic mutation that significantly increases the risk of cancer. In the process, they also discovered they had a half-sister they didn't know about. We begin this story with that life-changing phone call.
Come on. Come on.
Laura J. Joe's life hasn't been the same
I find myself actually saying that sometimes.
ever since that phone call.
Yeah, it was good news first.
The good news, bad news phone call.
She told me that She was my sister.
Yes.
Stephanie was on the other end of the line, telling Laura that she had not one but two sisters.
To this day, I can't believe it.
Twins.
That was the most mind-blowing part.
They had the same mom,
Barbara Jajo,
who had died of cancer.
Our mom was in that apartment.
45 minutes from where we were living.
That's where we lived.
How is that possible?
Still 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom.
Laura was raised by her mom. The twins were not.
We never met her. We were adopted in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
A few years before Laura was born.
You grew up not knowing about your sisters, right?
Nope.
It was a secret Laura's mom would take to her grave.
So you never got to meet your mother?
No, but
Mom was there taking pictures.
They had each other now.
I know.
It was mind-blowing. It was exciting at the same time.
That was the good news part of the call.
I love to tell this story to people because they are just in total shock every time. And then what happened?
Bilateral, right and left.
The bad news part?
That was also stressful.
It's why Laura is heading to the operating room at Swedish Medical Center right now.
When she got diagnosed with the gene, that was like, oh gosh.
The gene mutation, BRCA1, a mutation that significantly increases the chances of cancer. It's what led to Stephanie getting breast cancer in 2005, Kim getting breast cancer a year later.
I mean, it was hard. I was upset and I cried.
Laura knew nothing about it.
Oh no, I thought I was an only child till 2007.
How could she know? The twins had double mastectomies and later tattoos to cover the scars.
As soon as we found out we had a half-sister, that's all we kept thinking about is we have to talk to her.
And that Laura would be getting a call from them one day after the twins' desperate search to find their biological family.
We wanted to know if there was anyone else in our family. If there was, they need to know about this.
To save their lives.
To save their lives. It's a scary thing.
And the gene test came back positive, and it was like instantly, it was like, no question, I got to do this.
Big problem, though.
But you didn't have health insurance.
No, I was very clueless about the cost.
She couldn't afford the prophylactic surgeries her twin sisters received, the double mastectomies and the reconstructive surgery. Swedish Medical Center.
Can't believe I did the cry on TV. They're like, oh my God.
To the rescue.
I have some good news.
What's that?
The folks at Swedish Hospital saw your story, and they are going to cover the costs.
Really? Wow, I'm going to cry. Wow. That's amazing.
So you don't have to worry about that.
So I've always told myself I'm not a lucky person. I've never won anything in my life, and I think my luck just changed.
Yeah, luck.
Thank
and
you.
Two determined sisters on a life-saving search.
One thing led to the other, then to the other, and here we are. It's very mesmerizing. A life's been saved.
5 hours of surgery, 2 doctors.
The goal is to remove all the breast tissue.
And a shared hope.
There'll be no fear. Exactly.
Laura will have both breasts removed and a double mastectomy performed by breast surgeon Dr. Patricia Dawson.
The worries are gone.
The reconstruction is in the hands of plastic surgeon Dr. Wandra Miles.
She's got such good doctors, and it's very lucky, very fortunate.
She places an implanted tissue expander. It's like a deflated balloon behind the muscle.
It's bringing back a lot of memories, too. Me waiting for her, her waiting for me. There's always the unknown.
The surgery is going well.
Miles is finishing the other side, so another hour.
You could say it all started with that phone call.
You feel really good about it because she's doing the right thing.
From the twin sisters Laura never knew she had.
Hey, Laura.
And when you think about it,
So how you doing?
it wasn't a good news, bad news phone call after all.
They said everything went well.
Did they?
Oh, yeah.
All good, because today Laura Jajo received life-saving surgery.
Everything went great.
And all paid for. You can't beat that.
Right.
John Sharifi, King 5 News.
That's it. That's the happy ending.
Laura says down the road she plans on getting a tattoo as well, just like her twin sisters did. If Laura had paid for the surgeries out of pocket, it would have cost several $100,000. But thanks to Swedish's True Family Women's Cancer Center, all the costs are covered.
It started with a simple statement, one high school student expressing a dream that seemed practically impossible, but that didn't stop her high school classmates from trying. King 5's Joe Fryer and a team of photojournalists take us to Snohomish, where an entire school is making a difference.
Go ahead and put that on this card right here.
It takes more than sight to have a vision.
Can we start? Great time.
Students at Glacier Peak High in Snohomish know
Just put them on the ground.
it takes heart.
Here, I want to put this on top.
There was no shortage of heart
On the ground. There.
as they collected 22,000 cans for a food bank.
Guys, just banana boxes first.
And for organizer Brooklyn Dana,
There we go.
it will take even more heart
This past 2 weeks, I haven't been to class in days.
to fulfill
It all fits.
her next vision.
Everything's coming together perfectly, so I'm really excited.
Oh, okay. All right, good.
By now, nearly everyone in the senior class knows her plan except for Allie Steenis.
I feel like we should do something for her.
Allie is now legally blind after a rare eye disorder gradually erased her sight.
This is an amazing girl who doesn't think about her disability.
Allie.
Yet they were all caught off guard earlier this year.
You ask good questions, extra credit.
When teacher John Bonner posed one question to a group of students meeting over lunch.
What would you do if you couldn't fail?
What would you do if you knew you could not fail?
And people were saying things like,
Oh, I want to make $1 million.
a famous movie star, or
I want a successful business.
whatever else. It got to Allie,
All she really said was, she's just like, well, I just wish I could drive a car.
something that most of us take for granted.
And we were all just kind of like, oh.
You're up.
That stuck with her until homecoming coronation, when Allie and Brooklyn were sitting together inside the gym, and the big bright lights up above were turned off, revealing rows of tiny tea lights illuminating the runway down below.
She turned to me and she's like, oh my gosh, it looks so pretty. And it kind of took me back because I was like, wait, what? And she's like, when main lights are out, I can see smaller ones.
And with that,
this is just... Are you the one that called these people?
you could say a light bulb went on in her head.
That's when Brooklyn's like, we could do this. Bless her heart.
I feel like it's a sword.
The bright idea came from a conversation with classmate Adrian Capel.
If we end it here...
What if they could string together thousands of Christmas lights?
Hey guys, we're going to put some lights out now.
Transforming the school's parking lot
She's going to drive down.
into a driving alley.
Crazy stuff.
For Allie.
We're kind of thinking airport runway here, where you're flanking the road with the lights.
Donations pour in faster than the cold December rain.
Hi! Thank you so much for coming.
So they can grant Allie's wish
Yes.
on the night of her 18th birthday.
So this is awesome. Yeah, this is... I'm just speechless. I'm just overwhelmed right now.
Her father Ken tells Allie they're meeting friends for dinner.
We're all waiting for you. It's going to be crazy.
So everyone get ready. To where?
She's here!
She's here!
But as she pulls into the dark parking lot, this is what she hears. Right before Brooklyn reminds her about that lunchtime meeting.
One of the questions was, what would you do if you knew you could not fail? Do you remember what you said?
He was driving.
Well, what are we doing here today? We are making your dream come true. Oh my God!
To make it happen,
How did you do this?
the students round up a driver's ed car and instructor
I'm scared.
who will guide Allie
Say your prayers.
through the illuminated track.
I can see the lights on the left and on the right now.
Quickly, it becomes clear their plan is working. And in spots where light is lacking, classmates fill the gaps with handheld battery-powered candles.
Oh my gosh, this is incredible.
Allie's personal guiding lights.
Thank you. I'm speechless.
Like any first-time driver, she must still get acquainted with that sensitive stranger.
Whoa, sorry.
The brake pedal. But for her parents, it's all good.
Never thought I would see this. Never thought I'd see this. Nope.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You guys have done so much for me. I just appreciate all of you. I love you all.
Allie knows it took their heart to put her dreams within sight. In Snohomish, Joe Fryer.
Yeah, hug.
Thank you.
King 5 News.
Thank you.
That was great. You guys are killing. This is awesome.
Believe it or not, the giving did not stop there. Later that night, Allie and her friends went to Seattle for a birthday dinner. In lieu of gifts, she asked all of her friends to donate money so they could walk the streets of Seattle, handing out food and hot chocolate to those in need. Allie's classmates also surprised her by collecting extra money and a bag of clothes so she could help the homeless even more.
Number 1 at 5. King 5 News starts now.
Peaceful Mayday protests turned violent in downtown Seattle. Shattered windows, flames, and clouds of pepper spray.
Some of these people think it's fun and games. It isn't. People are getting hurt.
But the city is not ours yet!
And with 2 more marches ahead of us, the danger is not over. We were warned that May Day protests could spin out of control today, and that is exactly what happened.
Short time ago, the mayor issued a proclamation, an executive order telling police to confiscate sticks, flagpoles, or other items which can be used as weapons.
A far cry from how this day actually started. It was a May Day march. It began peacefully just before noon at Seattle Central Community College.
But around 12:25, a mob of people wearing black infiltrated the march. They surrounded this white car at 3rd and Union and started pounding on it. From there, the troublemakers broke bank windows.
15 minutes later, around 12:40 this afternoon, vandals shattered glass doors on the federal courthouse downtown. They quickly ran off as somebody threw some incendiary device.
At approximately 12:50, vandals broke the windows at Nike Town at 6th and Pike. Police moved in with pepper spray to disperse the masked culprits.
Well, then just before 3:30 this afternoon, another group of protesters took off from Westlake Park, headed to the Space Needle, with the city determined to stop any further violence. Now we show you a live picture from Sky King, and you can see that group joined the Westlake crowd once again. And we have crews keeping track of all these different crowds, and we will start once again with Jim Foreman.
Yeah, guys, hi. We're here at 3rd and Pike, where something just happened. Somebody was either fell or knocked to the ground. But here is the rear line, the rear cordon of Seattle police, kind of pushing this crowd back over to Westlake. Westlake is to the right. To the right there, and 3rd Avenue for some time, and the bus traffic has not been able to move. So a lot of people are stuck right now. Both directions of 3rd Avenue. You can see we have to move as the police move too. So right now the tone and tenor is calm, but there are a few people who seem intent on having come downtown to cause some trouble. So we're going to try and get to a safer location here off to the corner and let the scrimmage line of police officers go by. And then our crews, of course, over at Westlake can pick it up. But people are just trying to get out of downtown, are once again finding themselves in the middle of a bit of mayhem.
And we're hearing, Jim, that some officers or people are throwing bottles at officers at your location at 3rd and Pike?
We believe that was the case, that something was being thrown at the police that caused some pepper spray and perhaps an arrest or two. Now, those you see the bike officers. I'm not sure, guys. Are you on our ground camera or the Sky King?
We're watching from Sky King, Jim.
Okay. If you see the Suburbans at the back end of the police line,
we do.
Those are the hardened SWAT officers who have much more responsive capabilities than pepper spray. And behind them, the mounted police. One horse can control upwards of 50 or more people. So they're an integral part of crowd management here. So the situation is people are just trying to get out of downtown. The 2 marches haven't even merged yet, and already we've seen trouble. And I can tell you that talking to some of those tracking the intelligence, they're really worried about what happens after sunset. Back to you.
Okay.
All right, Jim, thank you.
Let's now head to King 5's Gary Chittum, who was in the thick of it this afternoon. Gary.
Things looked pretty good when demonstrators began putting a symbol of peace in the middle of 6th Avenue. But that peaceful moment didn't last long. It was shattered by the sound of breaking glass at a nearby building. We got there in time to see flares thrown up onto an upper tier and then rocks thrown at the big Nike windows. The panes came down. At that point, the attack was on. Nike Town was the target. They came from all sides and began busting out windows. Pretty soon, they came from behind us too. As you see the camera being jostled around, we found ourselves having to defend ourselves. A good Samaritan stepped in to help out and did his best. We were able to protect ourselves and get away with no injuries, and it was soon time for the demonstrators to leave as the cops moved in. As you can see, they mistook our good Samaritan and us for demonstrators. Tear gas in our eyes, we began to follow the rest of the action down the street as things began to finally cool off. Things have cooled off considerably since then. Right now, though, the crowd is starting to come around the corner. The group that Jim was marching with heading this way to Westlake Center. We expect to see them in just a few minutes. All day long, this has been a very peaceful demonstration going on here at Westlake. Where the problems occur is out on the streets. The thing that police and the organizers were most concerned about were infiltrators. Every reason to be. Reporting live at Westlake, Gary Chittum, King 5 News.
All right, Gary, thank you. Well, most of the destruction happened between 12:30 and 1:30 this afternoon. Lori Matsukawa is standing by in the newsroom with the description of some of what happened. Lori.
Gee, nothing like seeing some of this happening live, and we're going to see it happen through the eyes of my King 5 colleague, Roberta Romero. She was in downtown Seattle when trouble broke out.
I see no police officers at this time at this location. Again, they were kind of on the back of Westlake Park, and we saw the group moving, so we chased after them, and then all of a sudden they just took to the streets.
Reporter Roberta Romero, surrounded. The wandering mob takes a destructive path, threatening a motorist.
You know, some people still have the masks on, and I think that's what has police officers most concerned, because that is a sign of the anarchists, and with their faces covered, it gives them some anonymity.
The mob moves on to the federal courthouse at 6th and Madison. One after another, people in black bash in the doors and windows. A firework is set off. Tear gas climbs into the sky. Police finally arrive. Self-proclaimed superhero Phoenix Jones tries to calm the crowd.
Certainly a contingent here who wants and will do vandalism and violence. That seems to be on their agenda.
Demonstrators attack Nike Town, bashing windows. Tear gas fills the air. Police chase after the vandals. More tear gas. Wells Fargo downtown sustained severe damage. Windows shattered, glass showering upon the crowd. Police are right on it, arresting troublemakers and locking them up.
And we want to assure our viewers that Roberta was not injured in any of her live reporting. However, her photographer, Richard Departie, was assaulted. He was intentionally poked in the face with a pole, but he's doing okay tonight. Live in the newsroom, Lori Matsukawa, King 5 News.
Thank you, Lori. Well, the next big march is happening right now, launching from Judkins Park on to the Federal Building. That's where King 5's Meg Coyle is keeping an eye on things. Meg.
We'll stop and let him come through you.
Well, Dennis, you can see the march is just getting underway here near Judkins Park, about 300 people strong, and they are trying to keep this peaceful, and so far so good. They are undaunted by their determination to make sure that their message is heard, equal rights for everyone. This is a march that is about stopping the Secure Communities program, which is was originally designed under the Bush administration to apprehend convicted felons, but people here are arguing that it's gone much farther than that, and that it creates this atmosphere of intimidation and racial profiling. And so they want to make sure that that message is heard. Despite some of the violent episodes from earlier today, this is something they've been doing since 2004, and they are determined to stay the course. Listen.
People aren't illegal, and everyone deserves to have the same civil rights as everyone else, no matter what color or where they're from.
And so here you can hear them now really chanting as they continue their march. They're going to be going down Jackson all the way to downtown Seattle, and that's where they're going to meet up with some of the other Occupy movements and some of the other protesters that are downtown already. So we've got about 300 people or so right now taking part in this march as it makes its way toward Jackson Street, where it will head west into downtown Seattle again to meet up with some of the other demonstrators that are out today. Again, they are undaunted by some of the violence that has happened. They have a strong police presence here. We've seen cops on bicycles. There are plainclothes officers that are intermingled in the crowd to try to make sure that things don't get out of hand. One other thing you'll notice is you look at these banners, you can see they don't have sticks in them, and that is from the mayor's executive order that anything that could be perceived as a weapon will be confiscated. So they're doing their best to abide by that. Again, they don't want any trouble, and they don't want the anarchists to try to steal the spotlight, and so they are determined to keep this peaceful. So we'll send it back to you. We're going to follow them all the way down into downtown, and we'll give you an update then. Reporting live in downtown Seattle, Meg Coyle, King 5 News.
All right, for a walk that began at Judkins Park, Meg Coyle, thank you. Well, that group of demonstrators is on its way to the main branch of Wells Fargo Bank at 2nd and Madison. They'll meet up with the Occupy Seattle marchers there. And where they converge is where King 5's Linda Brill has been standing by with a look at how Seattle police are handling today's protest under a microscope and in front of a camera. Right, Linda?
Everywhere you go, there are pictures being taken of police. Every protester that we see has got a camera. Everybody's photographing everybody else. It is a very different scene than you've ever seen in any of these protests before. Right now we're at 2nd and Madison. We're between the Federal Building and the Wells Fargo Center. This is where it's all going to converge. The group that Meg was telling you about, the group that Jim was telling you about, they're all on their way here, coming down 2nd Avenue, and will be here at around 6:15, 6:30 is when the mayor arrives. This is a huge challenge and test for the Seattle Police Department today. This is the first big rally that has gone on since the Department of Justice slammed SPD for violating people's civil rights. You heard the mayor earlier. He's giving them even more power to confiscate items from citizens. This is going to be a challenge for police.
Not touch me! Move!
It's a wild goose chase. Seattle police trying to stay ahead of the gangs of so-called anarchists, smashing windows downtown. Broken glass up and down 6th Avenue, and police seem to be one step behind.
Who's winning?
Seattle Police Department is.
Try to ask a masked man about the vandalism. He says police are responsible.
It's nothing to do with the protest. We think it's a side matter, probably done by police just to give them an excuse to kettle.
Police on bicycles, on foot, on horse, hundreds called in on overtime today. And today, they get a powerful new tool. The mayor, by emergency order, allows police to confiscate any items that can be used as a weapon.
The First Amendment uses of 5-foot-long, 3-inch rod sticks is outweighed today by our desire to preserve public safety and confiscate.
And the mayor will be here at around 6:15 to 6:30. He's going to talk to the group about his support for immigration reform. Again, they are going to converge here at the Federal Building. And, of course, we'll be here live to bring it to you. I'm Linda Brill reporting live in Seattle.
Thank you, Linda. We see traffic moving you back into Linda Brill, but Tracy Taylor, it's got to be messed up some places.
It certainly is. And we're definitely dealing with the gridlock in downtown with the protest that's happening. Still, 6th Avenue is going to be closed, and that's on Pine Street where some of that protest is going on. Hearing of gridlock on 2nd and 3rd Avenues, 2nd and Stewart Street being closed. Of course, the roads around Westlake also being closed. The latest we've received from King County Metro is that it hasn't disrupted service too much. However, there has been 8 routes that had to reroute because of the downtown protests. Of course, we're staying on top of it, and we'll bring you the latest coming up in just a little bit. Guys.
All right. It probably seems a little disrupted if you were waiting for the right bus in the wrong place. Tracy Taylor, thank you. And we will continue to follow all the developments coming out of the Mayday protests, especially those in downtown Seattle. We'll go back live in just a couple of minutes, so stay with King 5.
The goal that I set to defeat al-Qaeda and deny it a chance to rebuild is now within our reach.
President Obama is on a surprise trip to Afghanistan today, the anniversary of the U.S. military mission that took out Osama bin Laden. And just moments ago, he delivered a major speech from inside that country. King 5's Glenn Farley is live in the Digital Media Center with an update. Glenn.
Well, Dennis, the president is in Afghanistan to sign agreements with Afghan President Karzai with promises of continued training and financial support after most troops pull out in late 2014. The president arrived at night under heavy security and then flew by helicopter to Kabul to meet with Afghan's president. 88,000 U.S. troops are still in Afghanistan, and 20,000 are scheduled to remain in training in anti-terror roles after most U.S. troops pull out in a little over 2 years. His message to the American people tonight.
We broke the Taliban's momentum. We've built strong Afghan security forces. We devastated al-Qaeda's leadership, taking out over 20 of their top 30 leaders. And 1 year ago, from a base here in Afghanistan, our troops launched the operation that killed Osama bin Laden.
Now, Joint Base Lewis McChord has over 10,000 soldiers deployed right now, including 2 Stryker brigades. Another 3,500 Stryker soldiers are scheduled to go this fall.
Our coalition will set a goal for Afghan forces to be in the lead for combat operations across the country next year. International troops will continue to train, advise, and assist the Afghans and fight alongside them when needed. But we will shift into a support role as Afghans step forward.
Now, the president says tough times remain ahead for our troops with all the dangers that go with combat. It was a short speech, only about 10 minutes. In the Digital Media Center, Glenn Farley, King 5 News.
Glenn Farley, thank you. Now, investigators have arrested 3 teenagers they believe set fires at 4 homes in Lacey over the past weekend. All of them are just 16 years old. Authorities are searching for a 4th suspect. Investigators believe this is a case of vandalism. This morning, firefighters raced to put out another fire at a home still under construction in the same development as the earlier fires were located. And demolition of that double murder suspect's bunker is underway near North Bend. Crews removed and bagged items from inside that secret hideaway. The demolition is expected to be finished by the end of the day Wednesday. Investigators believe Peter Keller built this hideaway over 8 years. Keller is the prime suspect in the murder of his wife and daughter. He was found dead in that bunker over the weekend.
We have much more coverage of the May-Day protests.
Marches are continuing in downtown Seattle tonight. We will update you live next.
We're all downtowners. We all made it through WTO, the first round. And I just locked the door and let people in.
What about the people inside the buildings while the violence was going on outside? Hear more from a business owner about how she stayed safe. And you're looking at a live picture of a May-Day protest in downtown Seattle. Anarchists and troublemakers went on a vandalism spree earlier today.
We want to take you again to King 5's Gary Chittum, who is live at Westlake Center. Gary, what are you seeing at your location where the marchers are expected to converge anytime?
They are converging right now, Lori. That's exactly what's happening over my shoulder. What's going on is behind this group of people is a line of police officers who are moving the crowd now as per the agreement and clearing 4th Avenue, which is completely shut down by this activity. Now, I want to warn viewers, this is live and rough, so things could happen during this that may not be very pleasant for you. Please help us out, bud, so we can see what's going on. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Peace. I get the message. What we're hoping for here is a peaceful resolution to this as the officers are moving them through. So far, everybody seems to be going along with that plan. However, on this side of the line, there are no police. On that side, there are police, and this part of downtown is shut down. We'll continue to just kind of show you these pictures until you tell me otherwise. But this is the culmination of the last, or the 3rd parade of the day, where the demonstrators march through the street. And now it looks like they are going to continue to march, beginning a new chant. Toss it back to you.
Okay, Gary, we can see a lot of other streets besides 4th Avenue heavily impacted in downtown Seattle tonight, right?
Lots of places got messed up in downtown Seattle today. That's absolutely correct.
Okay, Gary Chittum at Westlake. We'll keep you in touch, and we'll check back with you later in the newscast. The protest took place all around the country today, not only Seattle. In San Francisco, ferry workers staged a rally picketing against rising health care costs, pensions for new hires, and wages. In New York City, members of the Occupy movement marched through the streets of Manhattan for a rally against corporate America. Organizers calling for protesters to block several bridges or tunnels connecting Manhattan to New Jersey and other parts of the city.
The feds arrest 5 men in an alleged plot to blow up a bridge near Cleveland, Ohio. All 5 face charges of conspiracy and trying to use explosives to damage property affecting interstate commerce. The FBI says the targeted bridge is over the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, roughly 15 miles south of downtown Cleveland. 3 of the suspects are self-described anarchists. Federal and state authorities say they are not tied to any terrorist groups.
The 3rd grader shot in a Bremerton classroom is smiling tonight. A group of Girl Scouts just made sure what she went through is not forgotten. Our South Bureau Chief Drew Mickelson joins us live in Bremerton with special honors for Amina. A nice story tonight, Drew.
It is a much different scene from what we're seeing in Seattle, and a much different scene from the last time we were in this neighborhood. Amina's school is adjacent to this park. Obviously, a much different scene here today. A lot of smiles at this park today. This was really Amina's first public outing since she got out of the hospital just about a month ago or so. Today, a Bremerton Girl Scout troop made up of 5- and 6-year-olds, the Daisies, planted a tree to honor Amina's recovery and strength. She nearly died after getting shot in February while at school. She hopes to return to school this fall. Her father says Amina and her family appreciate the support from the community.
I mean, it's something that's going to be there. It's kind of a testament to Amina's strength. And hopefully the tree will grow as she grows, and she'll be able to bring her children here one day.
Amina's father says she is doing much better, but she still has a long recovery ahead of her. But she says, and he says, that these kinds of events will really help with her recovery. Live in Bremerton, Drew Mickelson, King 5 News.
All right, Drew, thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Let's go to Sean Wickham from the Seattle Police Department. He is on the telephone with us to give us an update on the goings-on downtown. Sean, how many arrests have there been made so far?
So we're trying to get a hard confirmation on that. It could be as many as 5 total. And the most recent one, we believe, was for vandalism. Someone was spray painting graffiti.
So, Sean, do you know how many injuries there have been? We saw some video of a man downtown with a bloody face around noon today. Any other people injured?
We don't have any reports of participants or officers being injured. That's information we're trying to track down. It seems like I was just talking to you guys in the noon hour, and that was before the violence erupted. And then we saw smashed windows, we saw paint being thrown, incendiary devices being set off, and it's just seemed to have gotten progressively worse. There was that break in the midday. And then just now when the march is resumed, we have reports of bottles being thrown at officers and potentially bricks. So what we're hoping is that because the marches that are going on are permitted, they're lawful. We know a lot of people just want to exercise their First Amendment rights. Seattle has a very rich tradition when it comes to celebrating May Day. We've got a small number of people who apparently have set their sights on hijacking this event. We're going to be relying not just on our uniformed officers and our plainclothes officers who are there, but on the people who are there to celebrate, who are there to march, who didn't want any of this. We're hoping that if they see someone who's breaking the law, who's out to hurt someone, out to damage other people's property, if they can just flag down one of our uniformed officers and let us take care of the situation. We're really hopeful that as a community, we work together, we can keep the streets safe.
And that would help keep the protests peaceful. Under the mayor's executive order, it gives the police department the authority to confiscate what they believe to be dangerous weapons, something that goes above and beyond a normal law. In those instances, have your police officers met much resistance from the people?
We've been monitoring that and not so much. I think a lot of people understand. A lot of people who have been planning on celebrating May Day and have been working towards the march, and they've been working with the city, and they've been organizing their community. This is not what they wanted. This is the last thing they wanted. They just wanted to have their moment to exercise their First Amendment rights, their constitutional right, freedom to assembly, freedom of speech, and to have this small number of vandals come out and inflict such damage to our city that we love, and it's really infuriating. So, of course, there's going to be a great deal of cooperation. I suspect that if there's some folks out there who really want to resist that idea, they really have their sights set on something else other than lawful demonstration.
All right. Sean Whitcomb, Seattle Police Department, thanks for joining us here on KIG 5. Let's hope for a peaceful evening of marches tonight.
Thank you, Sean.
A good dose of rain started to move through western Washington.
Jeff Renner will let us know how long it will stick around. His forecast is next.
And the May Day protests are not restricted to just Seattle. We'll show you what happened in Portland today as well. That's coming up at 5:30.
Well, good evening, everybody. We were looking at some showers in the afternoon begin to increase. We're still seeing that on radar. Let's go immediately to our radar output right now, and we'll see that. In fact, some thunder and lightning down in the Portland, Vancouver, and just to the south of Kelso. That is moving into the Cascades, and signs are that it's beginning to diminish. We'll see some of the heavier showers in and around the Puget Sound area, just moving off the Kitsap Peninsula, beginning to approach Richmond Highlands and Linwood. If you live in those areas, I would expect to start seeing some heavier showers within about the next, 10 to 20 minutes at the most. Heaviest place, or I should say the wettest place today, 0.8 of an inch of rain at Utsalati Elementary in Camano Island. Pinewood Elementary, Marysville, just shy of 1/4 of an inch, and 0.2 of an inch at Sumner High School. At SeaTac Airport, nothing measurable. We have had trace amounts show up, but nothing enough to measure in the rain gauge. Today's high unseasonably cool, just hitting 53 degrees. If you felt it was chilly outside, you felt that way for good reasons. Low this morning, 44. Right now, 51. That over downtown Seattle, southerly winds at 5. The pollen count low for trees and no grass or weed pollen showing up today. You can see the band of clouds driving those showers inland. That's right here. Now, the basic driving force, big area of low pressure in the Gulf of Alaska. Here's that disturbance moving inland. Once that kicks in, we're going to get a stronger onshore flow that will maintain showers in some places, but I think the trend will be to decrease until this system starts moving in Thursday morning. But tonight, let's take a turn to our Futurecast. High-resolution modeling. We run the simulation forward in time. You see again this tendency for heavier showers from about central to North King County into South Snohomish County. As we move forward in time, that diminishes, reforms up near Everett tomorrow morning, probably the wettest morning commute, and then typically tending to diminish in the afternoon, though we'll still see some showers. Here the tendency more central to South Puget Sound. Overnight lows tonight, near the Sound, low to mid-40s, farther inland or elsewhere, upper 30s to low 40s with scattered showers. Scattered showers tomorrow, heaviest from Arlington down to Marysville, mid-50s, partial clearing in the afternoon in particular. Central to North Sound, mid to upper 50s. Again, the heavier showers, Linwood up to Everett. Central to South Puget Sound, we're going to be looking at highs mid to upper 50s as well, with a better chance of partial clearing and a reduced chance of showers. Certainly mostly cloudy and scattered showers along the ocean beaches. The winds are going to be pretty light over the Puget Sound area, south-southwesterly 0 to 10. East of the Cascades, it is going to be partly to mostly sunny. Chance of showers Spokane down to Pullman, mountain passes. Could see some weak measurable snowfall, probably slushy and short-lived. Morning rain Thursday, back to showers. Mostly cloudy showers Friday. Saturday showers ending, partial clearing. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday look pretty nice, back into the 60s. That's what we've been waiting for. We just have to wait a little bit longer.
All right, those good weekends just keep on coming. Thank you, Jeff. More breaking news to tell you about tonight. A house fire in West Seattle. Sky King is over the scene. We can tell you that this house still looks fully involved, but we also know apparently no reports of injuries. This house fire located in the 8400 block of 20th Southwest, we believe. We have no more details. We'll keep you posted about this fire right now burning in West Seattle.
Seattle has seen a day of violence and vandalism. Next at 5:30, live updates from the May Day protests.
And we've seen a lot of video like this. Broken windows, outside buildings, we're looking in. What's it like inside? We'll tell you what one business owner had to do to protect herself and her customers.
Another live picture of downtown Seattle where anarchists and vandals have hijacked what was supposed to be a peaceful day of May Day marches, but this march is different. This is the one that originated at Judkins Park making their way on Jackson to 4th up to the federal courthouse. And this one has been very organized, very peaceful, with no problems whatsoever. Too bad the rest of the day hasn't been like this. It has been a tumultuous day in downtown Seattle.
But at this hour, a legal May Day rally is underway, and King 5's Gary Chittum is there. Gary, you and your photographer were roughed up earlier in the day, but tonight, what's the situation?
I didn't quite hear all of your question, but let me just tell you what's going on. The police are taking back 4th Avenue at this point. The marchers came down this street and stopped right here at Westlake, and the police began to move them off to the side. As you've said, every time it gets around Westlake, things seem to be very peaceful. But earlier along this parade, while we had problems, we'll show you some pictures. Somebody who got into a confrontation during that march, the police moved in quickly. They grabbed him and took that person away. And he was arrested. There have been several arrests during the day, but for the most part, when it gets around Westlake Center, it's been very peaceful. As you can see, people cuddling up and sharing their love, even with me down here at Westlake. Reporting live in Seattle, Gary Chittum, King 5 News, back to you.
Nice, friendly little group around you, Gary. Thank you.